بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's كتاب شرح عجائب القلب, The Marvels of the Heart. This is book 21 of Ihya Ulumuddin, The Revival of the Religious Sciences, that is the Islamic Sciences, translated by Walter James Skilly. We have reached now chapter 14, leaving only one more chapter as the last chapter of this book. We are an exposition, this chapter 14, an exposition of whether or not evil promptings can be conceived of as entirely cut off during remembrance of God, during the dhikr. We are on page 125. Imam Al-Ghazali said, know that the scholars who have observed the heart of man and investigate its characteristics and its wonders disagree on this question and are in 5 groups, meaning they are holding different opinions. One group says that evil suggestions is cut off by the remembrance of God subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal. They refer to the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever God is remembered, he, meaning Satan, hides himself khanas. The hadith is daif, but the meaning inshallah is sound, the meaning, not the chain of narrators. It has been attributed to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, but even that also I've read is not sound at any rate. Wallahu alam. So the moment of dhikr, Satan simply disappears. To hide oneself, that's not a sound tradition. To hide oneself is to keep still. So it is as though he keeps silent. Another group say that the source of evil suggestion does not entirely cease to exist, but continues to flow in the heart. It has no effect, however, for the heart, since it is entirely immersed in remembrance, is veiled from the effect of the evil suggestion. The heart is like a man so engrossed in his chief concern that if he were spoken to, he would not understand, even though the voice reaches his hearing. Another group says that neither the evil suggestion nor its effects are cut off entirely, but its domination over the heart is cut off. It is as though Satan whispered from a distance and weak, not strong. A group says that the evil suggestion ceases to exist for a moment at the remembrance of God, and that remembrance is also annihilated for a moment. These two states follow each other at such close intervals that they seem, because of their closeness, to be pressing against each other. They are like a ball that has several separate dots on it, for if you roll it rapidly, you will see the dots as though they were circles because of the speed with which the emotion brings them together. This group says that Satan's hiding is mentioned, while we observe the evil suggestion along with remembrance, and that there is no other explanation for it than this. A group, this is number 5, a group says that the evil suggestion and remembrance crowd upon each other constantly within the heart in a struggle which is unending, just as man may see two things at the same time. So also the heart may be the channel for two things. The Messenger of God وسلم, said, "Every man has four eyes." This is not a sound tradition. Those are in the two are in his head, and through them he sees what pertains to his relationships to the present world. The other two are in his heart, and through them he the sees what pertains to his religion. His religion, his deen. Uh, it seems that there is another version about his akhirah versus basically this world. Al-Muhasibi held this view. Imam Al-Ghazali himself, in a different context in Ihya Ulumuddin, he says that the Jund al-Malak and Jund al-Shaytan, the soldiers of the angel and the soldiers of the devil, of Satan, they fight each other, and the battlefield is the heart of the believer, and this is ongoing, and unless basically one eradicates the other. Imam Ghazali continues by saying, but in fact, as we see it, all of these groups are correct. Each one fails to include all these species of evil suggestions and looks only at one species of evil suggestion and tells of it. Evil suggestions are of different source. The first is clothed with truth to a degree, for Satan may be garbed with truth. Thus he will say to a man, "Do not give up the enjoyment of pleasures. Life is long, and resisting your desires throughout your whole life causes great suffering." But if the man remembers at this time the greatness of the right of God, the exalted, over him, and his great rewards and punishments, he will say to himself, "Resisting the desires is hard, but it is still more difficult to endure the fire, and one of the two is inevitable." So if the man remembers the promise and threat of God, the exalted, and renews his faith and certainty, then Satan hides himself and flees. For he cannot say that fire is easier to bear than resisting acts of disobedience, nor can he say that disobedience does not lead to the fire, because his faith in the book of God Azza wa Jal prevents him from that, and thus his evil whispering are cut off. So also he will suggest that one should be proud of his own deeds, saying, what creature knows God exalted as you know him, or serves him as you serve him. How great then is your place with God? And then the man remembers that his knowledge, his heart, and his members with which he works, and his work itself are all of them created by God, the exalted. So how can he be proud of them? Then Satan hides himself, for he cannot say this is not from God. Remember the story of Qarun, who was from the people of Prophet Moses, peace upon him, and the problem with Qarun is that he attributed uh, his wealth to his own making, to his own knowledge, to his. It was a moment of a pompous moment, and rather than recognizing, since he was from the people of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he definitely knew about Tawheed, but nevertheless he chose a different path. This reminds me of a student who ranked at the time number one in Palestine in terms of the general certificate exams, the Tawjihi. And in the interview, they asked her about, like, what's your methodology? How did you study? How did you achieve? Because her grade was almost 100. And she spoke about what she did. She spoke about her methodology, the division of time, uh, how much she studied, how much she rested, all the things. And I was waiting for at least one phrase, one statement, whereby she would say, first and foremost, this is really, uh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because tawfiq, which is it is remarkable that it is mentioned only once in the Quran, and some scholars said that it's because of its rarity. You are guided. You are even when you make it, basically, it is from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So Satan himself would not say this is not from God, but the human being would be deceived, and he might say this is from himself because his knowledge and faith compel him, meaning Satan. This is a sort of whispering that can be cut off entirely from those who have mystical knowledge, عارفين, and are enlightened by the light of faith and gnosis. The second species of evil suggestions is that which moves and stirs up appetence. This is divided into that which man knows assuredly to be an act of disobedience, and that of which he is strongly suspicious. If he knows it assuredly, Satan withdraws from the stirring up, which results in moving appetence, but does not withdraw from stirring up per se. But if it is of the suspicious sort, it may continue to exert its influence in such a way as to call for a struggle in warding it off. Thus, the evil suggestion exists but is warded off and does not gain the victory. The third type of evil suggestion is that which comes only from involuntary thoughts and recollecting past states, for example, thinking about something other than prayer. So when the man begins the practice of remembrance of the dhikr, conceivably it is warded off and returns again and again. Remembrance and evil suggestion thus keep alternating. It is conceivable that they press so closely upon one another, that the understanding will include an understanding of the meaning of the thing recited, and also of those involuntary suggestions, as though the two were in two different places in the heart, that this sort of evil suggestion should be entirely warded off so as not to recur is very unlikely, but is not impossible, since the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever prays a two-cycle prayer without experiencing any suggestions of the self about this present world during the prayer will have all his former sins forgiven. غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. من صلى ركعتين لم يحدث فيهما نفسه بشيء من أمر الدنيا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. This is agreed upon uh, hadith. If this were not conceivable, he would not have mentioned it. This cannot be conceived, however, save of a heart over which love has so gained the mastery that has become as one utterly devoted. Thus, we sometimes see a man whose heart is so wholly occupied with an enemy who has injured him that he may think about contending with his enemy for the space of two prayers and many more, and no other thought save that of his enemy will cross his mind. So, too, one deeply in love may think in his heart about conversing with his beloved, and be so deeply submerged in his thought that nothing else save conversing with his beloved ever occurs to him. If someone else were to speak to him, he would not hear. And if one should pass in front of him, he would be as one unseeing. If this is conceivable in this case of fearing an enemy and coveting reputation and money, why should it be inconceivable in the case of fearing the fire and coveting paradise? But this is rare because of the weakness of faith in God, the exalted, and the last day. If you consider all of these classifications and types of evil suggestions, you will understand that each one of these groups has its own point which applies under particular circumstances. To summarize, salvation, the salvific value, khalas, salvation from Satan for a moment or for an hour is not an unlikely thing. But safety from him for a long time, or for a long lifetime, is very remote indeed and impossible to attain. If anyone could have escaped from the evil suggestions that Satan makes by means of involuntary thoughts and rousing of desire, the messenger of God surely would have escaped. It is related of him that he looked at the ornamented border of his robe during prayer, and when he had finished the prayer, he cast the robe away, saying, "It distracted me from prayer." Hadith متفق عليه. but I think the translation rather than the border ornamented border. My understanding is that there's some alam, some إلى علم ثوبه. Is that what it is? At any rate, see, the hadith continues that after he said that, he said, take this thawb to Abu Jahm and bring me his his dress, his ambijaniya, his garment, his coarse garment. Another time he had a gold ring on his finger, and he looked at it while he was at the member. Then he flung it away, saying, one look at it, and one at you. The Imam Iraqi, when he mentioned this hadith, he said that it has an authentic chain of other transmissions found in Nasa'i, but it does not mention the whether it is gold or silver, simply that it distracted him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'la wa alam. There's a hadith narrated by Imam Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ saw a ring of gold in the hand of a man, and he took it off and threw it away. And he described it as a as a ignited as flame in one's hand. And they told the man after the Prophet ﷺ went away, take your ring and not wear it, but فانتفع به, use it to like sell it and just. But he said, I will. He took an oath that he will not take it, and simply because the Prophet ﷺ threw it away. Inshallah khair. This was due to the evil suggestion of Satan by arousing the pleasure of looking at the. Here it says the golden ring and the ornamented border of the garment. This took place before gold was forbidden, and therefore he wore it and then cast it aside. So gold and silver are prohibited for men in Islam. unless one is unless one is has, for example, skin disease, then and silk is the only material that does not cause him um, allergic reaction or whatever. And there was a time when dentists used gold uh, in uh, in dentistry, so it's not as an ornament. But I think we are beyond this. There's no need for that. Imam Ghazali in his Fatawa, he says that if the mati- if the garment is of mixed material, so for example, we say cotton is more than 50% and silk is less than, the explanation is mine, and silk is less than 50%, then the garment is not considered silk per se, and it's okay to wear it. This is not like um, to cheat on the law, but that's simply people today. They when you read the tag, it would say, for example, 50% cotton, 70% cotton, or 70% wool, 30 cotton, or synthetic material, or whatever. And silk might be industrial silk. The evil suggestions of the adornments of this world and the money are cut off only by casting them away and separating oneself from them. For as long as man owns anything beyond his actual need, be it but a single dinar, Satan will not allow him during prayer to be completely free from the thought of his dinar. How will he keep it? For what will he spend it? How can he hide it so that no one will know about it? How shall he show it so as to boast of it, and so on? Whoever fixes his clutches on this present world and then desires to get rid of Satan is like a man dipped in honey who thinks that the bees will not alight on him. This is impossible, for this present world is a great entrance for the evil suggestions of Satan. Indeed, there is not one entrance only, but many. Uh, Let me just say that if I ask the question, who financed the Tabuk campaign during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, it was Uthman bin Affan. So here we talk about someone, he was wealthy. Abdurrahman bin Auf, he was wealthy. Uh, because if you don't have the dinar, you might be preoccupied with the lack of the dinar. I would definitely, I would have loved the news from Muslims and non-Muslims alike who are capable of making a difference around the world today. We have more than 1 billion. That's exactly what it is. We have more than 1 billion. That's 1/8 of humanity who do not have uh, drinkable water, and who do not also have sanitation, no sewage. 1 billion who cannot really sign their names, about 2 billion who subsist on $1.25 a day for every single thing in their lives, while the military industry and uh, and governments are spending so much money on destruction, on weapons, and they could simply use that money to improve the conditions on Earth for the 8 billion people. We are going nowhere as humanity. We are going nowhere. You can see they have sent, um, I think, Boeing sent two astronauts to the space station, and they are having hard time bringing them back. Uh, this is not against science. This is, even if you succeed in sending, let's say, 8 people to Mars, that's 1 in a billion. We are going nowhere, and to improve life for such a large number of people, you do need money, and I'm talking about basically the wealth of the society at large, the wealth of the country, the wealth of the ummah. One of the wise men said, and this is the last paragraph in chapter 14. One of the wise men said, Satan approaches the son of Adam from the direction of his acts of disobedience. If he abstains from them, Satan comes to him by way of giving advice in order to cause him to fall into some innovation, bid'ah. If he refuses this, he commands a life of narrowness and abstinence, so that he considers as unlawful that which is lawful. If he refuses this, Satan makes him doubt regarding his ablution and prayers, so that he may not have certain knowledge about the performance of them. If he abstains from this, Satan makes righteous acts easy for him, so that men may see him as patient and pure, and their hearts be turned towards him. Then he becomes proud of himself, and by this he, meaning Satan, destroys him. At this point, man is in great need, for this is the extreme degree of temptation, and Satan knows that if man passes by it, he has escaped from him into paradise. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to escape from Satan and to have that dhikr which really make Satan disappear one way or the other, inshallah. Until the next session, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.